Got audio. Yeah. The YouTube. Yeah. Guess I can pause recording. I think that's it. Morning, Eric. Can you hear me? No, can't hear me. There he is.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning, Eric. How you doing?
Good, good. How are you today?
Doing well. Should be all set yet. Just once we get closer, we'll have to remember to resume the recording. That's it. So.
Hey, Eric, this is Craig.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, I met with the folks on the seaplane base.
Yeah.
Last week.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a good introductory. You know, I laid it down that yeah, I'm willing to work with them, but you know, my first order of business is to protect the airport.
Correct.
But where we are is, you know, they got an objection from the FAA on their proposal, but the FAA hasn't shared what that objection is.
Okay. All right.
So we're both trying to figure out what that is.
Okay.
But it was a pleasant meeting. The gentlemen were very nice, and you know, we're going to work together and see what we can do before we write anything up. The FAA wants us to write up a letter of agreement between the parties, but both of us agreed that we don't know what we would be signing up for. So,
Right.
So anyway, I'll keep you updated though.
Okay. Well, that Dan Peacock was one of my professors at Western. So
really.
Yeah. Okay. So he comes over to my house there and he says, "Hey, what's going on? What's going on?" I said, I'll ask, but I see him a few times. And I think the other gentleman, Jeff Tompkins, yeah, I know him too, because he works with my wife at American.
Okay.
So, but I'm just passing along what they asked me, and you know, whatever the outcome is the outcome.
Gotcha. Understand. So, okay. Okay, that explains why Dan was a little more knowledgeable about aviation than just pilot. Yeah. Then I mean, he was speaking about airspace and,
Yes.
And stuff like that. So,
Yep.
Very, very nice gentleman.
Let's see.
I'm a little confused as to what I'm seeing here. Look like my screen share does.
Hello.
Hello, Dave.
hop on for a second, Amanda? I sent the invite to Cecile's old email. So I gotta update that.
You sound really good, Eric.
Oh, thanks. How you doing, Dave?
Good.
Good.
I hope that's not my computer making that noise.
I don't hear a thing.
Yeah, it must
That's
be.
it's the way do I sound all broke up?
Not too bad.
A little scratchy.
I hear you just fine.
I think I have it. You might have. I just used the same invite list last time.
Versus much METC.
Much to do with that, yeah. Okay. She should have it now.
Hey Eric, when I tried to share screen, the PDFs, the other PDFs were popping up in front of me. I don't think I could see if I was actually sharing. The file.
You'll have to just slide it up.
Just slide it over.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then see how it's kind of highlighted in green.
This one.
This is the one that you're sharing at the time,
Okay.
yeah. So. Mhm. Did you want to mess with it anymore? Are you good?
I think I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when is that on the budget or on the agenda?
What?
The financial report.
Yeah, so the financial report reviews the
Is that?
19 PFC audit, the 19 annual report, and then the 20 report.
I think we're all set, but we'll see. Like a preview screen for them to watch. Ready to go, you know?
Yeah.
Like a Pixar short or something.
Yeah. I'm feeling good.
Yeah. Or just a backdrop of something that's like we got something off, just like a roller or something we stand in front of.
Probably like campaign speech, so it's AZO winning, or, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever our new hashtag.
I don't mind being. Did we already get that straightened out with her?
Was that Cecile?
Yeah.
Should be straightened out.
Okay, let me just see.
Did you hear back from Cecile? No. I just.
Welcome to the Kalamazoo Battle Creek Internet.
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay. I probably did. I just used the same invite list from last meeting. So. Great.
Is anybody else having the same problem I'm having with the audio?
Yeah, Dave, I hear you. Do you hear me? This is Gil.
Sounds like Eric is underwater to me. I can't understand a word he's saying.
Yeah, both you guys though, Gil and Dave, sound fine to me, but Eric was, really gobbledygook.
Richard,
John, you hear me okay?
I can hear you, Gil.
Are you guys hearing us okay? Are we the gobbledygook?
I'm not going to be able to participate this way. I can't understand a word that's going on.
From us?
No, you were fine, Amanda, by me.
Okay.
You sound good.
I think
Okay.
it's Dave's speakers. It almost sounds like maybe there was water damage. I don't know.
Closed caption.
Right around side.
Type it in. Okay.
Mark, who meet tonight, and Chief. And the third just jumped on.
Chris looks like she was gonna do the call today. But she can see for you.
Kristen. Do you need the spelling of anybody? Breuking?
Breuking.
Did you say no for him? I do.
Yeah, we got five.
No, no. Four.
Oh, we do have four. That's kind of neat.
Oh, yeah, Dick's gone. Rebecca. Say a minute ago, I thought we had a quorum.
We did, yeah. Dave jumped on. Maybe he's trying to get this one.
Hello.
Good morning.
And
Let's see if I can get this going.
Good morning.
Morning.
Okay, so far I've got Dave, Greg, Nikki, Cecile, and Eric. Have I covered all those that have checked in?
Kurt's
here too, Gil.
Okay, Kurt. So far as I know, missing in action would be Mark and Jim. Either one of you on?
Mark is on vacation, and I'm not sure about Jim. And we did not hear back from Jim.
Okay.
I think Jim said he was going to be here. Didn't he? He replied, Jim Woodruff?
Okay, I don't recall seeing an email. So, but I might have filed it away.
Well, in any event, we have enough to proceed, so I'm going to call the meeting to order. And we'll begin with a roll call.
Kurt Ardema,
Here.
Dave Buskirk, Dave Buskirk, Gilbert Colliver,
Here.
Greg Hamlink,
Here.
Nikki Miller,
here.
Cecile Much,
Here.
Eric Rankin,
Here.
Mark Weiss, James Woodruff, Dave Buskirk,
He's on.
I see Dave is on, but apparently he's having some trouble with audio. Dave, if you're hearing me, just raise a finger or point your hand or something. Okay, I'd say that no audio either direction.
He jumped back off. We still have a quorum, though. Gil,
All
I
right,
do
well, we have a quorum, so we'll proceed. The first item of business is approval of the board minutes from July 9th, 2020, which were circulated to everyone. What we'll do is, as we've done in the past, is we'll just kind of do it like a round table. So I'm just going to go through alphabetically and ask people if they have any comments or questions regarding the board minutes. Kurt?
No comments.
Dave? Unable to respond. I have no comments. Greg?
No comment.
Nikki?
No comments.
Cecile?
No comments.
Eric?
No comments.
All right, there being no addition or corrections to the minutes, they stand approved as published. At this point, we would be open for public comment.
Hey, Gil, I just have an addition to the agenda that I'd like to bring up under new business for board action.
Yes, I have a note on that.
Okay,
So
excellent.
when
Just
we
want to make
get
sure.
to that point, we'll bring that up.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks.
Public comment is a time when any citizen can address the board. We ask that you speak up now and identify yourself, name and address, and limit comments to 4 minutes. Are there any public comments?
No, they haven't.
There being none, we move on to the financial report. Amanda?
Good morning. I have a lot on my financial report today, and I am going to screen share part of it. Let me get that up. First thing is the 2019 PFC audit, and I just shared the wrong thing. It's not it.
So you'll have to,
Yeah.
there it is.
There we go. Okay. So this is the 2019 PFC audit that was included in your packet. There's a short report here. I will go through it quickly with you. So this page here discusses, these are the audited financial statements for the PFC program as required by the Audit Compliance and Reporting Guide for Public Agencies issued by the FAA. This audit is performed by Raymond in conjunction with the county-wide annual audit. And this page here shows the cash flow for the PFC program for 2019. We began the year with $413 in PFC revenues, collected just over $306,000, had interest earned of $2,400, and then transferred at year end to ourselves $308,000 for reimbursement of previous expenses, leaving an ending balance of $471 in the account at year end. And then there are a few more pages in this report of notes from the auditors. This page discusses that they have audited the compliance of the program at AZO, and it is the auditor's responsibility to express an opinion on compliance. And then I will see if I can highlight this section right here. So this paragraph right here is the auditors stating that in their opinion, we have complied with the compliance and all material aspects for 2019. There are no findings or questioned costs for 2019. And then there are also, there were no findings or questioned costs for the previous year for the auditors to follow up on. Any questions for me on that? Okay, I will move on then to the 2019 annual financial report. Just here. Can you all see that okay?
I can.
Okay. So this is the annual report that I do every year after the county has gone through the audit process. This report is specific to the airport, but is based on the audited financial statements at the end of the year. So I'm going to scroll down to the bottom of the first page here and talk about, can you see my pointer?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Talk about this section here. So net position is a useful indicator of financial strength of an organization. So that's the first thing we talk about here. During 2019, our net position increased by just over $3.5 million. And this is mainly due to our assets increasing during the year. And the assets increased because of project timing with AIP grants, increasing our receivables, and the financial completion of certain capital asset projects. And I'll tell you, financial completion of capital asset projects, excuse me, typically comes behind the physical completion. And when it's AIP projects, it typically comes quite a bit behind that. So wrapping up the financial aspects of those projects. Our liabilities decreased a little bit during the year, and that's mostly due to just paying the principal payment on our long-term debt. The largest portion of our capital assets here, I'm sorry, of our net position here is capital assets, 89% for last year. Capital assets are not available for future spending, they're restricted. Restricted net position, which is this number right here, that net position relates to restrictions by outside entities, such as our passenger facility charges and the assets relating to the pension. Those are under restrictions from outside entities. Unrestricted net position right here increased by just over $450,000 in 2019, about 8%. This is due to factors that I already talked about. So to wrap this page up, our total net position, sorry, I got lost here. Our unrestricted net position equates to about 9 months of operating expenses. We generally look for net position to be about 3 to 6 months minimum for our type of operation. And then moving on to the next page, this is something I added to the report a few years ago to illustrate our cash and investment balances and how they ebb and flow over time. We have 2 unrestricted cash and 1 unrestricted investment account. At the end of the year, there was a combined balance of approximately $4.9 million. This is a small decrease in cash of $854,000. This relates to the prepayment of certain AIP project expenses and the correlating increase in receivables during the year. Our AIP project receivables increased by more than $938,000 during the year, and just over $470,000 was reimbursed to us by the state in January 2020. So with the projects that we have going on and keeping the projects flowing, we're increasing our receivables a little bit for now.
Now those receivables will eventually be refunded, right, from the AIP?
That is correct. So the ones that were specifically related to the runway extension project, that was what was reimbursed to us in January. I was really pushing the state to get that to me by December 31, and it just didn't happen. The other portion of that that's large relates to an evolving state process for the cash flow of the AIP grants. That I don't expect to be reimbursed this year, but when the grant is closed out, which we're keeping an eye on. It was a process the state did for a little bit, so we do expect those to be reimbursed. Okay, and then on to operating revenues. At the end of the report, and I'll point this page out, there's more detail, but this page is a summary of our operating revenues and an analysis as it relates to the previous year. Our end payments were pretty flat from 2018 to 2019, and we did have the runway rehab project, which caused 16 days of no commercial activity at the airport. And because operating revenues are so heavily activity-based, our revenues reflected that year over year. Our revenues did come in 13% over budget, and that's mainly due to really conservative revenue budgeting for 2019 because of the unknowns around the runway closure and really what effect that would have.
So Amanda,
Mm-hmm.
the employments piece, so if we hadn't had the runway closure, employments would have been up probably, right? Because if they were flat and they factored in a 16-day closure.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, operating expenses. Our operating expenses increased slightly from 2018 to 2019. Operating expenses total just over $3.7 million, excluding depreciation, less than the previous year. And then moving on to non-operating. So PFC revenue is strictly based on commercial passenger activity and collection authority. Our 2019 PFC revenue was $311,000 compared to $615,000 in 2018, and that was affected by two things. Number one, the loss in collection authority that we had during 2019, and I would say to a much lesser extent the 16-day runway closure. Those two things overlapped, but PFC revenues are really based on the timing of when a person books their ticket. So I think that's the bigger factor there. Grants and donations, there was a big swing from year to year for that, and that was based on project timing with AIP grants, and the year in 2018 we delayed AIP funding, funded construction, so that really you see the effect year to year based on timing of that. This page kind of talks about looking forward. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about this because later on in the meeting, we're going to present the budget recommendation. And then in the next 4 pages, these are the audited financial statements that directly come from the county's audited report. Just pulled out the airport here, and this is airport only, makes it a little easier to read. I'm not going to go through any real details on these. And then this page is not part of the audited financials. This is a summary of capital asset acquisitions during 2019. Any questions?
Amanda, I had a quick question on the PFCs. You said that those are based on when the person purchases the ticket, not necessarily the date of their trip?
That is correct. So PFCs are part of what the passenger pays for the ticket, and then so the airline takes that in at that time and then remits it to us, usually the next month, sometimes a little later.
Do you expect any issues with 2020 with like all the refunds and everything that have been happening of people of the airlines like recalling that PFC charge?
I do. I do. We see adjustments fairly regularly to the PFCs that are remitted to us for various reasons, and so PFCs will take just as much of a hit as any other activity-based revenues that we bring in here. Okay, any other questions? I will move on to the June 2020 financial statement. That was in your packet. This statement is through June, and I want to put the reminder out there that we have not amended our 2020 budget yet. I expect that we'll bring an amendment request to you probably in November. So when you look at the budget on here, this is based on what we did last fall, late last summer, last fall. So operating revenues are at 22% of the originally approved budget. This is the largest area of impact from what's going on right now. I want to point out on parking revenues, we had no parking booth operation from April 6th through August 1st. the parking lot staff have started to come back, and we have some limited parking operations now. So there was no revenues coming in for that time period. This report also reflects anticipated revenue abatement through the stakeholder support program. And in your report, I included a page that details a little bit more of what we expect to abate through the program. So it totals about $115,000 to $120,000 a month. And I want to point out to you guys, I do know what month it is that I'm reporting on, which is June. You'll see some of those revenues go through July on that, and some go through May. And that depends. If it's a flat monthly rent, that would normally be billed out in June for July. And then if it's a concessions-based, reporting-based type revenue, those lag behind a month. So you'll see some revenues through May and then some through July. And I'll include this this page in your report monthly now, so you can see the actual figures of what's being affected there. Operating expenses are at 44.5% of the approved budget before depreciation. Parking expenses are lower than budgeted due to the booth closure. So we're seeing an effect on both sides from that. Negative on the revenue side, but positive on the expense side. Due to the slim operations there to begin with, we decided to close the booth, and I already talked about bringing this some of the staff back. So any questions on that? Any questions on 2020?
There was no parking. We did have a few flights and a few passengers go out. How were they accommodated?
The gate arms were lifted, so passengers could come and go.
Yeah, Gail, I used
And we did.
Oh, sorry, Amanda. I used the facility in July, and yeah, I mean, you pulled in, parked your car, and pulled out when you left. There was nobody was there to check anything. I noticed there were quite a few cars in the lot, as if maybe people were using it as a free parking lot versus now when the gates are back down again, but it was just wide open.
Yeah, a lot of the short-term parking was from terminal employees, especially closer to the where the airline gates are. That was almost exclusively terminal employees. And then back at the very back of long-term, we opened that up for the rental cars. They had a real inventory issue there for a while. So we let them park back there. And then we did find, when we put the gate arms down, some rental car returns were being parked in long-term. So Kristen's done a really good job with working with rental cars to move those back over to the rental car lot too.
Okay, thank you.
That is it for my financial report.
All right. And with that, we move on to non-consent agenda items. The first of those being Air Services Consulting.
All right. Thank you, everyone. So we did an RFQ for Air Service Development Consultant selection. We do currently have an Air Service Development Consultant, but we did not have a contract for them. So it was appropriate to go out for bid to give people an opportunity to submit and advertise their services to us. We put out the selection, the RFQ, in June, soliciting interest from firms interested in supporting the air service development at the airport. 3 firms responded to the request, and the firm selected by our review committee was Volair Aviation, who is doing the services for us right now. They're doing a good job, and their proposed client contact is somebody that I've had a relationship with in the past, and they're doing a good job for us. So our recommendation to the board is to approve the air service consultant recommendation from staff for a 2-year period with the possibility of 2 1-year renewals as well.
Okay, I will entertain a motion for acceptance.
Motion to approve.
All right, Greg, I will also like a second.
I'll second.
Kurt?
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Now we can have discussion. So we'll start with Kurt.
Sure. Thanks, Gil. So Craig, I appreciate the time you put into getting a contract with this group. I know we've been working with them for a while, but it sounds like the support has been there that we've needed. This is obviously a critical consultant that we have within our organization, and we talk a lot about air service and air service development, and this is really that first group or most important group out there, at least in my view, that we have on our team to help with that. So trust your judgment on it, and like you said, we've had some success, it sounds like, recently with them, and look forward to working with them again for the next couple of years. Thanks.
Thank you.
Dave. Still no luck with Dave? Okay.
He comes in and out.
Yeah. And I have no comments. Greg?
No additional comments from me.
Nikki?
How long were we working with Volair without a contract?
Since 2018, I believe it was, since 2018. Now, there's a little more to it than just without a contract. Sixel Airport Consulting was the company on record, but Sixel imploded back in late 2017, and a number of those people who used to work for Sixel formed their own group called Volair Aviation. So it was the same consultant, same people working on the contract, just a different company. So Sixel as a corporation dissolved in 2017, but Volair came in. So it wasn't that they weren't selected, it's just that a new company entity was created.
Okay. And so they're the Air Service Committee, they're the ones that help us, get in front of the airlines and like look
Yes.
more appealing.
Correct. Help us work to retain and also have opportunities for new air service, put together the analysis that we did and the position of that. Really just guidance as well, as we feed them statistics. I talk to Will, who's our client manager. I talk to him on a weekly basis.
Okay. Because it seems like it's been a little stagnant with the air service development and everything. So I was just curious as to why
Air service development has evolved as a position. I can't really speak to what was done, prior to my arrival. Will is new to Volair. He was with another firm prior to about a year ago, I guess. The firm that he used to be at was the firm that I used in Flint, or the airport used in Flint. And they were very proactive, very good at getting us there in front of the airlines that we needed to, and keeping us abreast of what was going on. And I would anticipate that would continue with this relationship.
Okay.
I think, Nikki, if I can, I think they've been getting us in front of the airlines for the conversation. Is that accurate, Craig?
Yes. And some of that's beyond just getting us in front of the airlines. These consultants work with a number of airports. So they might go to a United Airlines to find out information, speaking on behalf of a dozen different airports. and then they share that information with us, which helps us. Airlines don't want to get every airport coming in for a meeting. They'd never get any work done. So it helps us in the sense of we get the information and the benefit when they're meeting even on behalf of other airports as well. Not that they're sharing specific information with the airports, but if they're getting a sense, for example, with COVID and the uncertainty with the airlines, there's a lot of restructuring that's going on in the revenue departments and the network planning departments of all of these airlines. And, we're getting good feedback and guidance. Now is not the time to be hounding those folks because they're doing a lot of analysis on each route. And also, there's a lot of uncertainty and, I'll say even morale can be, is a little bit impacted right there. So they're giving us information based on their conversations on behalf of, all of their clients as well. They're trying to manage those communications as well. And also these folks came from those departments, so they have a lot of credibility when they talk to those. For example, Will, our consultant, worked for both Southwest and American Airlines in network planning.
Okay.
Okay, Cecile?
Yeah, so did we used to use Mead and Hunt or something similar? Was there?
They were the consultant, I believe, through 2013.
Okay.
And then Sixel was selected in 13. I could be off by a year or so, but Mead and Hunt was used in the past.
Okay, I just didn't remember the Volair name. But.
Right. Yeah, Volair is a new name to Air Service in the sense of they were created in early 2018.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Eric?
So what was like the deciding factor to go with Volair?
I think a known entity, known quantity for the marketplace there. They have good arrangements with their I'll say employees. I'm going to call them employees, and how they work to communicate with the airlines, and then that information back to us. And then also, I place a lot of value when I'm doing selections on the client manager, and the client manager had that. I have that relationship with him, and he's also been a person. As I'm very proactive on these kinds of things, and I'm throwing ideas out there, and he's a good reality check as well, and he's been that way for a good 6 years. Just somebody that I trust.
Okay. Yeah, I've attended the Volair. I attended the Volair conference in Tucson,
Mm-hmm.
and I watched them interact with the airlines and representing Kalamazoo and representing other airports around the country. And I wonder whoever it is, whether it's Volair or somebody else, because they're managing multiple airports, how much interest, how much push are they giving to us versus another airport?
Right. Yeah, and then that comes into play, because we're a smaller client. All I can say is that will depend on me to be the thorn in their side, and really work the relationship that I already have with Will and a couple other members of their staff as well.
Okay. Just because previous experience, when we were sat there and we did our presentation, I think our slide package was like 50 slides, and then you watch them with another airport and it's like 10.
Yeah.
And you have to do it in that 20-minute time frame, and we seem to not be able to get through each slide with the multiple, with that number of slides. So
I agree. Those 20 minutes are your elevator speech, and you don't have to give them the unabridged version of the history of Kalamazoo. So yeah, I see. I know where you're coming from.
Okay, great. Thanks.
And I think an additional comment, my observation has been that at least since we started with Volair, we had more one-on-ones and invitations to meet with different airlines. So I'm, following up on Eric's thought, which I think is a good one, we kind of need to keep an eye on whether or not they ever end up with what I would call internal conflict as to, well, which client do we favor in a particular discussion about a particular market, and so on and so forth. It could end up being difficult, but without them, what chance do we have to get those face-to-face meetings? And how important is that? So that would be a thought that I have, at least, to monitor what goes on with that. And if we felt like we were getting shortchanged, we ought to complain.
Okay.
So I have a question in the document here. What is our investment with them?
What is that, 30,000, 3,000 a month? 3,500 a month, so 42,000, right? That come to 42,000.
Greg, are they representing any other airports in our region that would be competitor airports?
The short answer is no. In fact, we put something in the RFQ to discourage others who are working with our neighboring airports.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
thank you.
because that would be a conflict in my mind, that they would be able to use our information to help bolster their case for other airports.
Right.
Okay, any further discussion? All right, then we'll call for a roll call vote.
Eric Rankin,
Yes.
Cecile Much,
Approve.
Nikki Miller,
Yes.
Greg Hamlink,
Yes.
Gilbert Colliver,
Yes.
Kurt Ardema,
Yes.
Dave Buskirk,
He's come
All right,
on.
motion carries.
All right.
Next item, airport marketing consultant selection.
Yes.
Craig.
Sure. And this is similar to the air service development consultant selection in the sense of, you have a firm that you work with to help develop your marketing. The airport does not currently have a marketing firm of record that we use. It's kind of been piecemeal over the last few years. My approach is to work with one company. It makes it easier to manage from a number of ways, and will also make it easier to report to the board on what is going on. You'll see in here the specific action request. It has the name of the firm. All three firms had submitted. That was because we didn't make the selection actually until Monday. So that's why, but the board packet went out last week. But basically looking to have the marketing consultant and the board to approve the use of and the selection that staff is recommending to the board is Elemental Media to provide airport marketing services for a 2-year period. So we went through an RFQ selection process similar to as I described for the air service consultant. This one was in July, and we received 3 responses. The firm selected by the review committee is Elemental Media. Of the 3 responses, 2 were from Grand Rapids and 1 was from Kalamazoo. That is Elemental Media. They had a package that was impressive. I will say the others were also equally impressive as well. But we thought this was a good opportunity to, because there was not much separation from the 3. I mean, all the point totals from the 3 of us on the review committee were all within 1 or 2 points of each other. And we thought having somebody who was a Kalamazoo company would be the tiebreaker for us on that one. And they really understood the market. So what we're looking for, and I say understood the market, but also really had some good things to take advantage of a lot of what I'd call digital marketing as well. which was a big component of the RFQ for us. We're asking this to begin really about upon approval and lasting through August of 2022 with no renewals. We'll see how this works for 2 years.
Okay, I will entertain a motion.
I so move.
I second, Nikki.
Support, I'm sorry.
Support.
Nikki?
Yes.
All right, we have a motion and we have a second. We'll open it for discussion. Kurt?
Appreciate the work on this, Craig, and getting somebody on board. Just to clarify, so they would be doing all of the marketing services related to the airport, from social media to TV, radio. I mean, is it all of those? Is it all encompassing for that?
So yes, specifically helping with any new creative content that might come, whether it's on TV, digitally, or print. There wouldn't be any social media management, as we're able to do that in-house. But that's not to be, we didn't ask for that as part of this RFQ. Certainly in the future, if we thought there was a need, or they were doing some great things, maybe I'd come to you guys and ask for that. But it's really specifically to help us create a message for the airport, reflecting some of the changes that are happening in the industry, and also to take advantage of some of the technologies that are out there. Excuse me. For example, I really think geoplacement is a good advantage over other ways of marketing, and I don't think we, and not specifically here, but we as an industry have taken advantage of that. So there's a number of things that I'd like to use them for that, but specifically just to update our content right now.
Is there any overlap in what they're creating with what Volair will be using, or do they create two separate items? I mean, it just seems like there's some potential there to have those two groups align in what they're producing.
There's potential for them to align and coordination, specifically if we were doing any presentations to the airlines that we might want to update our graphics, for example, and if there's information that can be used that we can share with the airlines. And then on the flip side, the information that we might glean from some of the analysis we do with our air service development, then that could be used by the marketing team to maybe put together some messages that might, it's all about bringing more traffic, whether it's seats or passengers. So there'll be conversations amongst the two groups.
Great, thanks.
Okay, the comment I'd have is let's see if we can get them to put some signs up somewhere near the Grand Rapids Airport to mirror the ones they've got on I-94.
Good suggestion.
I'm willing to go up there with a sandwich board right out front. And
So I have a question then. Is there a budgeted amount affiliated with this request? I'm not seeing anything in here for dollar amount.
That's right. So we budget marketing. I'm not asking for any more money for what they're doing at this time for the 2021 budget, because I'm trying to keep it within that same dollar amount. I reserve the right to come back for 2022 and ask for more money though. So.
Okay.
Okay, Nikki?
No comment.
Eric?
I think it's a good idea, and hopefully it goes well. That's all.
Thank you.
All right, then we'll call for the roll call vote.
That's where I leave.
Kurt Ardema,
Yes.
Gilbert Calver,
Yes.
Greg Hamlink,
Yes.
Nikki Miller,
Yes.
Cecile Munch,
Yes.
Eric Rankin,
Yes.
Dave Buskirk.
All right, motion carries. Next item, MDOT capital grant.
That's me. Okay, I'm back. So this grant request is for the reimbursement of costs associated with the installation of the water bottle filling station, which, you know, we did early this year, late last year, early this year. And the state was very kind and threw in the installation of power outlets for the seating in the boarding area in the same grant. We were pleasantly surprised when we got the document that that was in there. There is a match requirement for airport funds. It's 50-50 match. We have identified line items that can easily accommodate the water bottle filling station and the power outlet match. So requesting approval for Gil to be able to sign the document, the grant document.
All right,
Yeah, I so move.
motion.
I so move.
I'll second.
And I'm sorry, who's the second?
Greg was the second.
Okay. We have a motion, we have a second. We'll open it for discussion. Kurt,
No comment.
Dave, I'm not getting any response myself. I had a question about the power outlets. When you look at the price tag, how many are we getting? Is it like one per chair, or?
That is to be determined. That was kind of a surprise that we got the funding for that. So we aren't as far along in that process, but based on Craig's previous experience, we think that will be about
probably about side of this terminal, maybe cover about half the terminal.
About half the seating area.
So this really isn't a charging station. I mean, we already have one of those, but this essentially is supposed to give charging capability to all passengers.
So
to the seats in the boarding area.
they're installed. They're kind of an aftermarket installation underneath the chairs. Like if you've been flying at an airport, you'd see already installed in the chairs these plugs.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody could, they're all in the existing seating. There's no new seating.
All right, so it's a significant number of them. I guess that's what my point was. So there's probably one for every other seat, so approximately. Why no federal support? Most every
this was a grant application directly to the state. They have an annual grant process where small projects can go in, and so there was no federal ask on this.
Was it a choice we made not to seek federal?
A choice we made to go out and request, yes.
He's not understanding the question.
Okay.
So Gil, the grant, the state has an air service development grant program, and it's just so airports can apply for up to $12,000 each year. So this is not a federal grant program, it's a state grant program through Michigan Department of Aeronautics.
All right, so there really is no avenue to use both.
Correct.
All right, how about CARES Fund? Can we use CARES Fund?
We could, but this, we'll be able to get, this might take us 2 years to get the seating totally complete to where we'd want, but this is a nice project to get state money for. They're always looking to give this money away, and I'm always willing to take it. So.
Okay. Greg?
Yeah, no comment. I think your question answered my questions.
Nikki?
So with the grant is like the 11,810, and then the airport is going to also match that.
Right.
Okay. So the project would be 23, whatever.
Yes.
Okay. And we've already paid up front for the drinking fountain, and this is just to get those expenses reimbursed.
Correct.
Okay. Gotcha.
Cecile?
Just to add on to Nikki's question, so we're leveraging our current budget items, not the CARES for the match.
Correct.
Because we are able to do so. Okay. All right. I'm good. Thanks.
Good. Eric?
Yeah, just a question on the time frame of action says through July 2020. We're in August.
Sorry, I copied and pasted from a previous board brief.
Okay.
Sorry.
One more question.
Been there, done that.
All right, any other discussion? If not, we'll call for the roll call vote.
Eric Rankin,
Yes.
Cecile Munch,
Yes.
Nikki Miller,
Yes.
Greg Hamlink,
Yes.
Gilbert Calver,
Yes.
Kurt Ardema,
Yes.
Dave Buskirk.
Motion carries. 2021 rates and charges.
This request is for your approval of the 2021 rates and charges resolution. It is very much the same as our current rates and charges. As you guys know, I really like to pick an area each year to pick on and take a look at. And with everything that's going on right now and the effect it's having on our stakeholders, the area to pick on this year was supposed to be terminal rents. Well, to me, that's what I wanted to pick on this year. So we discussed a couple things here and then decided now is probably not the time to look at requesting a rate change. There is one section we did add, and it is for, let me get this right. For-profit events, promotions, movies, basically people wanting to come to the airport and film a music video, a movie, a commercial, whatever, to make money off of. It is an industry practice to charge those types of things. We do have a permission process here at the airport, but there's no fees associated with it currently. So those fees are detailed in the brief and then in the redlined version of the rates and charges resolution that you have. But other than that, everything else we're requesting to keep the same for now.
All right, do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Kurt?
I'll second it.
Do I have a second? Cecile?
Yes, sir.
All right, we'll open it for discussion. Kurt?
Amanda, I think you've got the right approach here of not making major changes during this situation. How many groups come in and want to film a for-profit video or production at the airport? It just seems like it'd be our marketing groups, but.
I would say in the 5 years I've been here, we've had 3. We've had a music video, we had a commercial a couple weeks ago, and we had a movie at some point in the last 5 years, a local movie here.
Okay.
So that's what I can recall off the top of my head in 5 years.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and I assume that news media would not be considered for profit, so.
Correct, right.
Is that or the Channel 3 or whatever, that they'd be allowed to come in and film or do whatever. Yeah.
Right.
Greg?
So we've got kind of a select group of airport stakeholders as far as the rates and charges that are on hold through the end of the year. I don't know, it doesn't affect that in any way, shape, or form. I mean, everything else is staying the same. We still have that in place with kind of the right to extend that as necessary in the next year, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. That's all I'll give.
Okay, Nikki?
So with this, if there were certain student type productions, that's the only like thing that I kind of think about. And, you know, if they could be classified as for profit, if it's a studio, like a student production thing,
No,
if there'd be
yeah.
any.
That's not the intent with this.
Okay.
It's really for like commercial for profit.
Okay. So that would be something that would be like a case by case basis if a student group wanted to come in for something or whatever.
Right.
Okay.
Cecile?
No comment. All good.
Eric?
My question's been asked and answered, so.
Very good. We'll call for the roll call vote.
Kurt Ardema,
Yes.
Gilbert Calver,
Yes.
Greg Hamlink,
Yes.
Nikki Miller,
Yes.
Cecile Mutch,
Yes.
Eric Rankin,
Yes.
and Dave Buskirk.
And motion carries. And we move on to the 2021 budget.
Sure. I'm just going to introduce it before Amanda comes in and really gives the details. You don't want me to give the details. It would be a disaster. But this year's budget was one of the more difficult ones to do in the sense that we're blessed with the CARES Act money that we have that will help us absorb the net impact of any revenue loss in this historic downturn. So through the process, and this is also an education process for me on learning the Kalamazoo Airport's process and how Amanda's doing that and how we roll up into the county. So I want to give props to Amanda right straight up front for educating me on the budget process and really taking the time to go over it and answer questions that were a combination of silly, intrusive, and just educational for me. So I needed that. It's the old seek first to understand, then be understood proclamation. So we looked extensively at revenues and expenses. Revenues were very difficult to forecast. And I want to give credit to Amanda and with direction from the Finance Committee. I think that they did a good job of coming up with our best prediction. And that's what it is. We've been asked, how do we think things are going to look for 2021 and beyond? And my peers at other airports are hearing the same thing. And really in any business, they're hearing the same thing. How's it going to look? You do the best you can with the information you have. So the revenues were difficult. Expenses are different. Airports are primarily fixed costs, even as revenue is variable. So it does not matter how many airline or how many plane passengers, that runway infrastructure still is the same. The taxiways are still the same. So you still have those fixed costs that are out there. As part of that, we looked at every line item and identified some ways to trim expenses. And this will continue as we learn more about how the airport will operate and how the industry will operate during and post COVID operations. And the example is the parking lot. Hey, we got down to a certain level where it was costing us money to run the parking lot. It made sense to lift the gate arm at that point. And we continue to work with SP Plus and Kristen out there to evaluate, moving forward. One area we did not trim is personnel. AZO runs well because of our tireless, dedicated staff that we have doing the work that we have. And those of you that use the airport, not only just visit the airport, but fly, and whether it's general aviation or commercially, can attest to that. We run well because of them. So to make cuts would really force different departments into overtime situations, which would hurt productivity, but also do little or nothing to shave expenses. So in this environment, we elected to keep things from that perspective on a personnel side status quo. We will continue to evaluate how this impacts us as we move forward, and even into next year and the year after, because it'll be a cumulative effect moving forward. So all these will come together, and we'll do our best to manage it. But I think as Amanda will run through this, I think we've got a responsible budget based on the information we have. And again, thanks to the Finance Committee for the input and Amanda for the work that's done on it. All right, Amanda.
Okay, I'm gonna share a screen one more time here. The screen. And thank you, Craig. I think having Craig here and him asking the questions that he was asking really helps us really do a deep dive on everything this year with what's going on. So I think Craig's questions really did help the process. And I really want to thank the Finance Committee, Cecile, Dave, and Mark for their input. We had 2 meetings with them this year, and they had really good input, and they each come from a little bit of a different perspective, which helped us think through some of the stuff. This has been the most interesting budget year for me with the airport because of this. Thankfully, we have the CARES funds, which made it slightly less difficult, but definitely an interesting process this year. So I will, paper's out of order here. I will talk through this, and then if you have questions, comments, anything, feel free to jump on in. So this budget, like any other year, we look at historical financial data. However, a lot of that doesn't tell us what's coming down the road with the current world situation. So we up front, I did a lot of research into what are people saying about this? How long is this supposed to last? What sort of effect is it going to have on the travel industry? A lot of reading, a lot of news articles, a lot of Craig sending me some really good stuff that he was seeing out there. A lot of information's flowing around right now from industry experts. However, all of the information, all of the experts, what everybody's saying is currently, it's just evolving. We're not far enough along yet to really know outcomes. So for 2021, what I'm going to present here today is the underlying assumption on activity. The process was for me to go back to 2018. That was our last year of normal operations, a full 12 months calendar year of operations. 2019, we had the 16-day runway closure. 2020, we're still in it. So I went back to 2018 and looked at those activity levels, and so I ran budget scenarios on 40, 50, 60, I think on up to 80, and then 100% of those activity levels. What would a 2021 budget look like? And this is what the Finance Committee spent a lot of time discussing. And what we landed on was assuming that 2021 will look like 40% of 2018 passenger traffic and airline operations here. So as you'll see, as we get into this, a huge impact to our operating revenues because of that. So before we get into those details, I want to show you the budget priorities and the financial metrics. These are things that all of the county departments send into county administration each year with our budget requests. So these, what's on your screen here, are the budget priorities. These were reviewed, massaged, and updated by Craig this year, and you'll see the strategic focuses of the county are bolded, and then below that, the airport priorities for our department below. And there's two, we have 2 priorities for each county strategic focus. And then this is the performance metrics that we've kind of looked at over the last few years in terms of the budget. And you'll see on this side, you'll see actual numbers for 17, 18, and 19, based on the original 2020 budget. This green box right here, these are the metrics associated with the budget recommendation today. And then I left on here 80% and 100% of 2018 activity to demonstrate to you how the current situation affects our numbers. And you will see a huge effect on cost per employment. And cost per employment is what it costs the airlines per passenger to operate in Kalamazoo. And you'll see that we've hovered high $6, low $7 for the last few years. And then you'll see on there, you know, the effect that passenger activity levels have on this number. So lower passenger activity levels with certain rent costs that are fixed here for the airlines, it has a huge impact on that number there. However, days cashed on hand doesn't change in any of the projections for 2021. And it's because of the CARES dollars. We can plug the operating hole with the CARES dollars. So we expect there to not be a large impact on days cash on hand. And that's just how many days can we operate if we don't bring in any more dollars. And then airline revenue as a percent of operating revenues, it's fairly steady here. And that's strictly revenue from the airlines. As we know, concessions, parking, and everything else is dependent on the airlines being here. So moving on to the actual, the budget. I'll start with operating revenues. This was interesting, and this was where a lot of our discussions happened. This is where I spent a lot of time. We can amend the budget at any time after the start of the year, but I really wanted to have a good starting point here. So operating revenues in the 2021 budget requests are just over 23% lower than what we have in the current 2020 budget. Lower activity levels impact almost every revenue activity to a degree. So, you know, concessions, which is this first line item up here, huge impact. However, we do have a couple buffers in there. Car rentals in Kalamazoo have a large amount of walk-in traffic, and we've started to see that walk-in traffic come back. So that was taken into account. The restaurant here, they have a minimum annual guarantee in their contract. So that's taken into account. Airfield revenues, a lot of that is very much activity based. Pretty much everything except for hangar rents, because hangar rents are set. Now I did take a hard look at our vacancy rate, you know, how much our hangars vacant during the year, and adjusted that a little bit based on what we're seeing. Parking very much affected by this, just over $1 million in revenue decreases based on what we think at this point next year will look like. So a huge drop there. And then moving down, lease sites, those are fixed ground lease rates, not affected by activity. So pretty steady there. You'll see for last year's actuals a higher number. We have a few year-to-year, month-to-month leases that are in there. So we don't budget. I don't budget for those because those need to come in front of you fairly regularly, especially the farming ground lease for the vacant acres that we have available for development. That's not budgeted. And then I've been told by my contact at the TSA that they don't expect an impact to the LEO reimbursement grant, the $100,000 down here from what's going on. So that is back in the budget. And moving on to operating expenses. Craig already touched on this. We really did some really hard looking at our line items this year, and Eric in particular did some really deep diving into maintenance, repair, kind of line items in his areas. And we really took a hard look at everything. We've also been talking a lot here about process improvements, with the sudden working from home. It exposed a couple things, and I can tell you from what I do, the county was very quick at doing some process improvements as it relates to finance processing and how we move things around. So taking a look at that was really key this year. Craig talked about our staffing levels. There, on the personnel side, I did not include in this budget request any salary schedule adjustments. Sometimes people call them cost of living. I think that's very unlikely that the county will do any of that, and so that's not in there. And I've spoken with the finance staff downtown about that as well. However, I'll point out any actual adjustments are determined through the County Board of Commissioners process later this year. And then moving through the operating expense categories here, administration, fairly flat budget change from budget to budget, 2.8% increase excluding depreciation. Unrestricted marketing, we did bump up that line item just a little bit based on some of the things we've been seeing the last few years and the emphasis on that. Airfield, fairly flat, less than a 1% increase from the 2020 budget. I had put in the memo that I wrote before I went on vacation that our services pricing was not yet established. And actually earlier this week, we received that pricing, and that is in line with what we had in our line item budget. Terminal expenses, again, very flat, less than 1% decrease from the 2020 budget. One thing that Eric and I looked at was janitorial supplies, and what do we expect with that later, not only next year, but later this year as well. There's a very big spotlight on cleaning and janitorial everywhere right now, and cleaning schedules, but with the reduction in the passenger traffic, that also plays a part in that. So we increased the janitorial budget by about 33% based on what we expect going forward. In the parking lot, we have a small decrease in the expense line items, and that Kristen has worked a lot and spent a lot of time looking at how they can cut costs, how they can reduce their staffing a little bit, and everything. So a lot of that has to do with adjusting the staffing model. There are certain days of the week where we have 2 staff in the parking booth, taking tickets and letting people out. So taking away that second person for the majority of the time, we just don't expect it to be needed. And looking at and some of the purchasing that we do out there as well. And then for security, again, very flat, just over 1% increase from the 2020 budget. Don't expect a lot of changes there. Craig kind of alluded to this earlier. Security and that security and airfield operations are still very important no matter the level of traffic here. So not a lot of changes there either. Overall, this line item right here, our operating loss year to year is increased by just over 16%, and that's mainly due to the revenue drop that we're projecting, and the CARES revenue is non-operating, so it's below that line item right there. So we have just over $2.2 million in this request for CARES federal revenue. That's out of the overall pot of revenue in the CARES Act that we're receiving. This is a portion of that, and that's to fill the operating revenue hole above. So a couple specific lines I want to talk about down here. One is the passenger facility charges. So you'll see, 2019, $311,000. That's a lower number because of the loss of collection authority. $610,000 budgeted for 2020. That's based on having a normal year of collections. We will not reach $610,000 this year. And then $245,000 in the 2021 budget, and that's based on the $4.50 per passenger per leg. We received $4.39 out of the $4.50, and those revenues again are designated for certain capital projects. We have to go through the approval process with the FAA on that. And then moving down to the capital budget, we have in this budget request a few items. So we did not this year go through our normal 5-year capital planning process that we normally would to kick off the budget process. There was a lot of factors at play with that. Craig's new, we were heading, March is when we would normally start that process, and we were starting something very unknown to us. We want to revamp our process as well. And then the addition of the CARES dollars plays into that. So we're revamping our process right now, but we did look at the 2021 capital projects as we normally would. And so included in this request is a pickup truck, salt spreader and plow to add on to an existing pickup truck, airfield markings, airfield crack sealing. Those 2 items are very important for us annually for maintenance. Maintenance building improvements, local share of AIP projects, which for next year will again relate to the extension project, certain components of that. And then about 10% of budgeted projects for capital reserve. And I really want to thank you guys today for including that in the 2020 budget. It's proven very helpful with some items and issues that have come up here, like the pickup truck that caught on fire. We were able to move very quickly with that capital reserve instead of waiting a couple months to come in front of the board. And then we're also using a little bit of that for the power outlet match for the terminal seating. So again, I really want to thank Mark, Cecile, and Dave for their time and help in this process. It was quite interesting this year. And that's what I have to present, and I'll take any questions.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve, and I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second, and we'll open it for discussion. Kurt?
Yeah, thank you, Amanda and Greg and the committee for the hard work on this. Obviously really challenging with all of the issues going on and the unknowns that are out there. So appreciate all that hard work. And it looks like you put a lot of attention into making sure we maintain level of operations and the facility and the staffing so that it's not a noticeable impact to the community. I think in these types of situations, it's critical to maintain that first class appearance, and that comes with staffing and investment in capital projects as needed too. So appreciate the work there, and I feel that like we're fortunate with the CARES Act money, and that makes a big impact. So thank you.
Thanks, Kurt. I have no additional comments. Greg?
So I guess the only maybe comment I have looking at it, and when we talk about CARES Act money, I'd be remiss to say if we didn't at some point address again airport as a whole. I think to Kurt's comment, you know what the public sees from the terminal perspective, that's a 10-year-old facility roughly. It's in great shape and it gets maintained well. But I think when we look at the other areas for opportunity around the airport, fire station, maintenance buildings, T hangars on the south side, I think at some point we need to be cautious with the budget, which I think we do, and the finance committee does a great job at looking at that. But I think we have an opportunity as well with CARES money to help improve the airport potentially. And at some point, I think it helps overall with the airport. You know, we could address security concerns, building maintenance, those kind of things that will help maybe alleviate some of the potential strain when we look at, hey, things have to be maintained no matter what the status of the airport is. So that would be my only comment at some point, if and when we get out of this current scenario we're in, that we look at the dollars that remain from a capital perspective and say, how can we improve things at the airport, as well as the property that we have at the airport that's currently unused that needs to be developed. So that would be my only comment. Appreciate all the effort that everybody puts into the budget process on an annual basis.
Thanks, Greg. Nikki?
Just thank you for everything you did and doing the best to predict for next year.
Cecile?
Oh, good. Thanks. Oh, I did have a question. When I saw the police, does the officer status, has that been resolved since the last meeting? Do we have an officer assigned?
Oh,
I'll have that in my director's report.
Okay, cool.
Stay tuned.
Thank you.
Eric?
No comment.
All right, we'll call for the roll call vote.
Eric Rankin,
Approved.
Cecile Munch,
Approve.
Nikki Miller,
Yes.
Greg Hamlink,
Yes.
Gilbert Colliver,
Yes.
Kurt Ardema,
Yes.
Dave Buskirk.
And motion carries. And with that, we move on to unfinished business. Does anyone have any unfinished business to bring before the board? And hearing none, we'll move on to new business. And I know we have one there, which was distributed to all of you, the PFAS issue. And Craig, can you fill us in on that?
Sure. I'm going to ask Eric to come up. He's going to manage the project for us. So he's got the board action form you've got, and he's just going to walk through it and answer any questions, and I'll help if necessary.
Morning, everyone. I know we're going a little long today, so I'll try to use my time efficiently. So I'm specifically asking the board to accept the state of Michigan grant being offered and authorize the chairperson to sign the grant agreement and consultant team upon legal review. Just a brief history of this grant being offered by the state. It's obviously been on the radar of MDOT and Eagle for the last couple of years, this PFAS issue. It's been identified in the AFFF, or the film forming foam that we use for firefighting here at the airport. And basically every airport, the FAA has a certain type of foam to be used, and it contains the PFAS chemical. So in an effort to be progressive and attentive to this chemical, Eagle has come up with some funding for the airports to do some investigative drilling and sampling on airport property, and it's a really good opportunity for us to team with MDOT and Eagle to kind of go down the road and fix anything or just look into what we may have here on airport property. So also just a note, this is there was a second round of grant opportunity. Basically, they opened it up for the first time back in July, early July, and we were a little hesitant to apply for that first round just to, we didn't want to subject ourselves or the county or anything like that to any unnecessary, I guess, investigation at this point. But it became quite clear after that first round closed that this was going to be an effort of Eagles and MDOT's, and it just obviously we should team with them rather than stay neutral and await any enforcement action that might come. So luckily there was some funding left over from that first round. Some like-minded airports like ourselves waited to see what that first round of grant funding might come up with, and so the second round came out in mid-July, and it was awarded to the rest, or basically the rest of the airports. 8 airports applied in that second round, and that was awarded in August 1st. So we submitted for the full $250,000. That was the maximum amount that we could apply for the grant, and ultimately MDOT is going to fund $196,250 of the proposed work. So we've been working with Mead Hunt and Limnotech, and we've already had discussion about with them about adjusting the work scope a little bit to match that dollar amount. So at this time, we won't be looking to add any additional airport local costs to the project at this time. So I believe that's kind of everything I have, and obviously I'll do my best to answer any questions you have.
All right, thanks. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Kurt, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Nikki, thank you. And we'll open it for discussion. Kurt?
Yeah, thank you. So I saw it looked like there was a similar award to Battle Creek Airport. I assume that was the same process that they went through. They just had a media release about it. And
that's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So Battle Creek, they were also included in that second round with us.
Yeah.
Lansing was also in the second round. Just some other notable airports, Lansing, Flint, Detroit Metro, Grand Rapids, Pellston, MBS, Traverse City. They have all received funding for this.
Okay.
Project.
Do you have a sense of how much farther this is going to go? I mean, does this open to the door to round 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in PFAS study and abatement?
I'm hesitant to make any prediction, but it's completely opens the door to some further investigation. Go ahead.
It really depends on, this is an exploratory, see what might be out there based on the, any releases from firefighting foam. And so if levels were found, if it was detected, then yes, it probably would open the door to more. If nothing is found and everything's in good shape, then it could actually close the door.
Okay.
This is specific to looking at the impacts of AFFF, the firefighting foam, on groundwater specific to the area.
That's correct. And so we have a known use history location map of where we have used that foam in the past, either for training activity or as a response to an aircraft accident. So those are the places that we're going to seek out first and investigate, and we'll go from there.
Okay. I'm just trying to make sure or understand, if we receive a grant to discover an issue, yes, we'll have to address that. But if we have to assume some sort of large liability in the future, I just want to be prepared for that. Or perhaps Eagle's going to have funding out there for some sort of abatement in the future too.
Sure. And just taking the temperature of the situation from the state side and the airports and our industry here, it sounded like this was the opportunity to get funding from the state, if there was going to be any, especially, I mean, who knows what the future holds. It was kind of that kind of, it was given to us as that, like, we were sent what's that?
A little bit of the carrot, in the sense that
right,
if we were proactive in working with the state in doing the testing now, if there was money to be forward, to be had later on in the process, those airports that participated early through the grant process would have, I'll say, a leg up on any. The concern from an airport perspective is AFFF is just one of thousands of sources for PFAS. Mm-hmm. And so you may find PFAS on the airport, but AFFF may not be the source of it.
Right. I will add one more thing too. I forgot to bring this up in my initial report, but we have teamed up or have been in contact with Jim Rutherford with the county health department and the environmental health director, Vern Johnson. Vern's been a great resource for us. We've added him to the project team. He's had a history of working with PFAS in the past here in the county of Kalamazoo. So again, he also has had some coordination with Eagle on those efforts. So it's been really nice to have his perspective on things in our discussions, and he'll definitely play a big part moving forward too as we get further into any investigations.
Okay. Well, yeah, I appreciate the information, and but I know it's something we have to address, and I just want us to be aware of that once we start exploring that there are potential issues down the road. But it sounds like we probably don't have a choice, and if we need to do it, it makes sense to do it now and have the state process followed so that there's potential help down the road if we need it.
That's right. Yeah, we were of your mindset for sure, Kurt, with that initial round of funding that went out. It was our thoughts exactly where, what do we leaving ourselves open to by accepting this and doing the study and investigation. But, as I kind of stated earlier, it became pretty clear that whether or not we had accepted any grant funding, Eagle was going to start pushing this effort regardless. So,
okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, and I guess I would kind of amplify on that a little. Kurt, I think we look at this and say, do you want to be defensive or do you want to be a good neighbor and say, okay, let's find out if we have any problem on here. It'd be better to be doing that on a proactive basis than to have somebody around you, for example, saying, well, we've got it and we think it's coming from you. And then you're in a defensive posture that I think you're correctly concerned about. So we have the opportunity, and this way we're being proactive and saying, yes, we want to be a part of the community and addressing what apparently is a county-wide issue.
Sure.
Greg?
So yeah, I'd echo those comments, Gil. I always like the proactive approach, but yeah, be prepared for what may come, if you want to say the impending storm. But I think it's good to hear that you're working with the county health officials. Obviously, they've got quite a bit of experience with it, and so I'm sure they can provide some good insight to the airport on it. So yeah, it's good to hear that you're networking with them as well.
Yeah, they've been tremendous so far in all our meetings and very supportive. So it's been good to have them.
Nikki?
No comment.
Cecile?
All good. Thanks for the explanation.
And Eric?
No comment.
All right, and with that, we'll call for a roll call vote.
Kurt Ardema,
Yes.
Gilbert Calver,
Yes.
Greg Hamlink,
Yes.
Nikki Miller,
Yes.
Cecile Much,
Yes.
Eric Rankin,
Yes.
Dave Buskirk.
All right, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you all.
And with that, we move to Airport Director's Report. Greg?
All right. I'm going to be merciful upon each of you and keep this short for two reasons. One is I hope that, and I get feedback from you guys, and I thank you because I send the updates every couple of weeks, so you know what's going on a regular basis. But there's a couple things that I'd like to hit on. You guys know that I sent out a message to basically our general aviation tenants about mobile maintenance and updated the airport rules and regulations. That is in that we plan on enforcing the rules and regulations, and also that the T hangar leases do say that there's no maintenance to be done in the hangars except for what's allowed under Appendix C of Part 43. Greg, you probably know better than I. Basically general maintenance that a pilot can do on their own aircraft. We've been getting some rumblings that people are out there performing engine overhauls, oil changes. That opens up us to a potential liability that I'm not comfortable with. So we're going to start enforcing that. We're going to do some training of staff here in the next couple of weeks. I give that to you just in case anybody says anything, asks you questions, where's this coming from, that kind of information. Don't hesitate to ask me or call if there's any specific questions that somebody might have. I've addressed about a half a dozen specific questions that tenants have already asked me. For July, I can tell you we had 3,243 enplaned passengers, people getting on aircraft. That is a nice increase from June. However, it's still down 77.6% from 2019. Interestingly, I mean, it's corresponding with the number of flights that Delta and American added. The good news is United ran pretty good for the 4 flights they did in July. The even better news is we're still in the schedule for October 1st. So as of right now, I can tell you that they're still planning on being back. I've been in touch with the folks locally to get their thoughts on that, and our consultant as well has talked to network planning at Chicago headquarters as well. So United has no plans to do anything but return on October 1st. And I always say that with the caveat of, I'll believe it when I see it on October 1st, because this is a really dynamic situation and the airlines are working their schedules around. The good news is all of this, we continue to track ahead of the national average for passengers and TSA, people going through TSA checkpoint. The bad news is it's still a low number, so we'll go on. And we did reopen the parking lot on August 3rd, as Amanda said. That's it's very important. That's a significant source of revenue to us, but we do watch to make sure that we're not losing money to collect money. So that's the big balance for us on that one. But Kristen and SP Plus do a good job of keeping Amanda apprised of what's going on, and vice versa. Part 139, our inspection is underway. It's weird this year. Normally they come here for 3 days or 2.5 days and visit and review your records and do a lot of on-site stuff. This year, because of the COVID, they asked us to submit all of our records, which we've done, and that review is about 50-75% complete. So far, he's happy, and they'll be on site at the beginning of September to do the on-site inspection. But so far, that's really good. So those are the big things I wanted to hit. Oh, the board orientation. I'm sorry, I have a note on that. This is proving to be difficult to get all of you cats herded together. I continue to work on that. I have actually, during the message, I got a phone or a message from Peter, the consultant. If you have not responded to that availability email, that survey, please do so. It'll help me. I mean, the most I have is 5 people that are available at any one time. So I'll be working with Peter if I can't get you guys together on some potential alternatives where we can have that feedback. But I really think the can has been kicked down the curb long enough, and we need to be moving forward. So I'll keep you updated in the next week or two, and appreciate those that did respond to the survey. I think everybody did, but just in case anybody did not. With that, I have nothing else. If anyone wants to ask any questions, I'm happy to do my best to answer them.
Okay, Kurt.
Thanks, Craig. Appreciate the hard work. Are you getting any sense of from the airlines if there's going to be, sounds like maybe another round of federal funding? Is that going to impact when we talk about United coming back? We know they have the exemption through until October 1st now.
Right.
Does that next round of funding play into any of that? Is there going to be another round of trying to pull out of service from different communities?
Sure. So the short answer is there is, in the, I'll call CARES Act 2, for lack of a specific term, there's a push for more airline money. One of the scenarios that our consultant has shared with us is if the airlines were to get that money, perhaps they would have that ability to exempt themselves from a number of airports. I think DOT would use the same language just because it was, once they did it, it was easy for them to select. I don't know if that will happen, but if it did happen, then I would be planning on a similar delay of return, only because they would have that ability to do so without really any penalty from the airlines. I will say, specific to that potential CARES Act 2, there is potentially more money in there for airports. The Senate bill does have $10 billion in there for airports. Unfortunately, that's not all going to us, but we would get some of it. We would qualify. I don't know what the House language looks like. It hasn't filtered out to us yet, but we'll see what happens. There's a lot of special interest groups in Washington trying to get their hand on some of that money. So we'll see what happens. I'll keep you updated.
Thanks.
All right. Greg?
Yeah, so I guess, Craig, the only comment I'd have is is again on the letter you sent out to hangar tenants, and I think that's appreciated. Again, some dialogue with tenants, understanding rules and regulations, what they signed up for when they're doing a lease. And I think you and I have talked about it before, is that level playing field at the airport. So when you have entities coming in to provide aircraft maintenance that are getting reimbursed for that service, we have entities at the airport that pay a concession to the airport based on their annual, if you want to say, maintenance sales. Those individuals aren't subject to that. So insurance requirements, all those kind of things from a liability perspective, it's been a long time issue at the airport. And I think it needs to be addressed, and it could be beneficial for all parties going forward. The one time you have an incident is the one time that everybody gets their neck in a wringer. So I think it's helpful that that folks are aware of it, what they can and can't do at the airport, how best to operate at the airport. So appreciate that.
Sure. Thank you, Greg.
Nikki?
Just wondering with United, when the last time maybe you talked to them or you said the consultant was, I know there was like a list of some like restructuring of the regional assignments, and that Kalamazoo wasn't listed on any of those regional restructuring assignments. So just something that
Right, we're still through Air Wisconsin. My last conversation with them was over the weekend. The local station manager talked to me. I haven't had any specific comments or discussions with network planning because our air service consultant talked to them 2 weeks ago. I think was when I talked to him last week. So so probably pretty current on that.
Okay, yeah, because that was just some information that I had about the new regional reassignments, and
right,
that Kalamazoo wasn't on any of those. But if it's maybe an Air Wisconsin thing, maybe that's why.
Yeah, or actually, are we SkyWest or Air Wisconsin? I might be. We're Air Wisconsin. Okay, yeah. I thought I had my old airport hat on. So,
Cecile?
I'm good.
And Eric?
All good.
I guess I got a couple comments on the outside maintenance issue. As a aircraft owner, it gives me some pause for reflection, let's put it that way. And what I'm concerned about is that if we have some sort of rule that just says no outside maintenance, it has to be performed by somebody who's a vendor on the airport. And I understand the concept that if they're paying rent and so on and so forth, that has some impact. But what you're essentially doing, if you put it that way, is you're making them a public utility unregulated. And that's a misnomer. That doesn't work. So I think we have to look at some sort of fair process. And so I'll just give you an example. Suppose that somebody in a hangar has an airplane and discovers that it's unflyable because of something gone wrong with the motor. And it could have been a situation where they even flew in and landed with a stuck valve. Now all of a sudden you have an airplane that you can't fly, and you got to get that engine repaired. And the natural thing to look at something like that is to say, well, I need to try to find the least expensive and most practical way I can to get that done. So in a normal situation, you could say, well, the guy that does that kind of work for me is cheaper than the one that's on this field, and I can fly my airplane to him and get the work done. Choice I get to make. But if we say, now I got a broken airplane, and I'd like to get somebody to come in that has bid the job lower than the on-field person, how can we, as an operator of the airport, say no?
Sure.
We're going to force you to spend more.
That's
that's a concern of mine that I think it can be addressed, but I just think we need to be sensitive to those kind of issues. And the other type of thing that can happen is aircraft are just like automobiles in many regards. You don't take your Ford to a Chevy dealer to get certain work done on it, and so on and so forth. And so we have to have some level of sensitivity to that, so that we're fair to both of our tenants, the ones that are there to do business and the ones that are there to utilize the airport. Tough question, but I think it has to be.
I'm in agreement with you on that, Gil. It is a fine line, and I can appreciate that somebody who's got an aircraft in a hangar that can't fly it. I can see it, the same way as a boat owner. We've only got one marina on our lake, and I got to wait a month and a half before I can even be seen. So it's very frustrating in that regard. I've actually asked peers in the industry how they've addressed the situation. I have a couple, I've got a path to a solution that is workable for, I think, both entities. For me, it's not about the extra potential 2% of revenue. That's not it. But you do want the folks that are doing the maintenance to be permitted in the county following the same process, and also some of these same insurance requirements as well. So that's really what it comes down to. The flip side of that is, if we don't do anything, we could open ourselves to potential complaints to the FAA about us really allowing those kinds of entities. So it's a fine balance. As I tell people that I've talked to about this, you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. So I'm going to come up with something that I don't know if it'll make everyone happy, but it'll be workable for everyone.
Well, you'll be a miracle worker if you can make everybody happy, but
Exactly.
give it a good try.
So I'm going to do my best.
Okay, anything else that anybody wants to bring up? Okay, then we'll move to member time. Kurt.
No additional comments. Just appreciate the hard work. Thanks.
Greg.
Yeah, appreciate all the hard work by the airport in interesting times. Maybe just to add on to one of my comments from earlier, I did just do kind of a drive around the airport, again, particularly on the south side. So the airport owned buildings, et cetera, even airport owned equipment. So we've talked about it before. We talked about hangar rents going up, going through on an annual basis to, doing cable replacements. You see paint peeling off hangars. I see a lot of airport equipment sitting outside, obviously wintertime equipment primarily sitting outside in the summertime, but even the maintenance facility. I think we need to look at that as a whole from an airport perspective and say, how do we keep that airport appearance and maintenance in general up to snuff. So I would encourage the airport to still look at that in difficult budget times, but also looking at the fact that we have the opportunity with CARES dollars potentially to address and improve some things. Never maybe a right time, never a wrong time, but I still think we need to look at it. So other than that, I'm good. Thanks, Gil.
Good. Nikki?
No further comments.
Thank you. Cecile?
I'm sorry, what was the answer with the officer status?
Oh, thank you. I forgot to even say that, and it's written right here. That was my trying to cut short. So Roger Williams, Sergeant Williams, is retiring on October 1st. We have a new officer that is, I don't know his exact start date. We're meeting with him next week, Eric and I, our introductions. And then the thought is he'll be in training with Roger to understand the processes out here, and then he will be fully on board by October 1st.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah, thanks. Sorry, I forgot about that.
Thank you. And Eric?
Just echoing thanks to everybody for all the hard work during these trying times in the industry.
Very good. And John, are you still with us?
I'm still with you. It's been most interesting. A lot of good information for somebody like me that doesn't know a whole lot about the airport's business. I have a couple of comments and then some things from the county. I want to compliment Amanda and Eric on the work they put together to put the materials in the packet. And I'd like to make sure that there's a way I can have access to those materials. Will they be on the website? Do you have to send me a link? Whatever. I'm really interested in getting into the weeds a little bit. And I'll try not to be overbearing with too many questions. The announcements that I would have from the county commission, the big one is that the consolidated dispatch funding was approved on the August 4 ballot by a wide margin, and that involves public safety in a big way. And that's one of the government functions that I, as a libertarian type person, totally endorse. And I was glad that it went through, and it put me in a funny position because I was supporting a tax increase. I don't like to be there, but maybe I'll find a way to save the money later and offset it. The other is that Mike Seals, in that same August 4 primary, was defeated, and therefore he will not be returning to the county commission in January. I like Mike a lot. He and I didn't agree on everything, but we had good discussions, and that's really important with everything getting so vitriolic and partisan nowadays, to be able to sit with somebody that you can actually have a civil discussion with. And Mike was one of those people. We'll just have to see who the person is that takes his place, and if that's going to still be possible. Thanks very much. Again, I found this a most and not enjoyable, informative, I guess, meeting. There's some good stuff here. Thank you.
And thank you. And I have a couple quick things to add. I heard a rumor that one of our board members may be retiring or may have just retired. Cecile, what do you have to add to that?
By golly, that's me. Yes, I had my last day with Kellogg on July 31st, and I am living a life of leisure.
Oh, congratulations.
Thanks.
Congratulations to you.
Congratulations.
Congrats.
Yep.
You're joining a generally happy crowd, I can assure you of that.
Yes, I'm looking forward to being among that. I still have my office to put somewhere that I packed up 16 years worth of airplanes and Tony the Tigers and who knows what else. I don't know why. So, you might all be getting care packages. I don't know. If we ever see each other again.
Yeah.
But I also understand that my membership on the board is an individual membership, so that Kellogg is doing well to keep me informed as to what their needs are, so I can still advocate as necessary.
And one other thing I'd add, Eric, if you'd give me your address, I'll mail you a shaver, because I think you're going to need one before they're going to let you go back to work.
Well, I don't know when I'm going to go back. I'm on my third airplane now since this has started, but I'm waiting for training and have not seen one since the second week of January.
Wow.
Tough position to be in, but you'll do well. We're with you.
Oh, thank you.
All right. And with that, we are adjourned.
Have a good day.
Thank you, everyone.